Hey guys, we are here for Kids Art today, and we are making some pine cone Christmas trees. And so I'll just show you an example of one of them. And we haven't fully decorated this one yet, but that is our example. So I'm just going to go over our supply list here. You will need some pine cones. You can just leave that, Ella. They know what a pine cone is. Pine cone, you'll need Mod Podge. You don't necessarily have to use paint, but I am going to show you the step of using tempera paint, and you could also use an acrylic paint or whatever paint you might have at home. You will need some beads. We have some glass beads here, and then a few other beads here that we're going to use for decorating. Another idea to use for decorations like your Christmas bulbs and that kind of stuff would be an old necklace or some kind of jewelry. Those like Mardi Gras type necklaces that have those little beads, if you were to cut that up, I think that would look really good and work really well for decorations as well. You'll need some type of measuring device. So this is what I sent home in the to-go bags. So you'll need that. You'll need a couple of old containers that you can throw away, and probably a styrofoam plate to put your paint on and your Mod Podge on. You'll need some type of paint brush. We are going to use, these are a round brush. This is like a number 5. Any paintbrush you have will work. You need some glue, glitter, and we're also going to use plaster of Paris. So this is plaster, and this will be one of our last steps. I'm going to show you how to mix this up. It's something that you don't want to go down your sink drain, so that's why we're using old containers. We're not going to rinse them out. You're just going to throw that whole thing away. So if that stuff goes down your drain, you're going to be in big trouble.
Why?
Because it will clog your drain and water won't run down it anymore. And Dad would be very angry if that happened, right? You'll need some type of mixing. We're using a plastic spoon to mix up our plaster at the end. And I think that's all the supplies. So for your first step is you're going to need your pine cone. So you guys have a couple of pine cones here?
Yes.
Can we see what you're working with? What you decided to use for pine cones? Okay, so they have 2 pine cones here.
Why are they so spiky?
So when we initially started doing the demo for this project, I went ahead and poured out all the plaster, and then we stuck the pine cone into it. If you so we're going to end up doing this step last, but I just wanted to show you the difference here. We haven't peeled the paint off of any of the green ones. So this is one that we did that was just Mod Podge, and we didn't paint the pine cone. We just put Mod Podge and glitter. This one was painted green and then Mod Podged and then glitter. So if you have a couple of pine cones, which I sent, I don't know, gosh, maybe 6 or more home in those to-go bags, I give you a lot to work with. So if you decide you want to do half of one and half of the other, that'll work. So you will choose your pine cone, and our first step that we're gonna do is we're gonna paint it green. So we're gonna use our styrofoam plate, and you guys can just leave these here on the tablecloth, and you're gonna paint one of them green. So we're gonna put our tempera paint onto our styrofoam plate here. If you have some type of palette to put your paint on, that'll work too. Yes. And so when you put this paint on, go ahead and paint one of them, guys. When you put the paint on, I'm gonna scoot you over here, Ella, and just move in behind you. How do you put the paint on? I think Ella has a really good way of putting the paint on. You put it on really what? Thick?
Yes.
Yeah, so be generous with your paint. And so she's just you want to get it into all those little cracks. And Panther's coming to join us, so he's got to get off the table. So you're going to go ahead and get into all of those little spaces. I'm going to take this a little bit closer, Ella. So when you paint, you want to get all the way white in there. And you wouldn't have to necessarily use green paint if you didn't want to. If you wanted to paint your Christmas trees purple, red, white. We got a white Christmas tree this year, so it can be any color. I'm gonna go grab some paper towels so these guys can wipe off their hands. You guys go ahead and keep painting.
Some of them might be crooked, so
That's just the way our pine cones grew.
And it might kind of be hard to just have them on and then put glitter on them. So you might have to tip them over to put the glitter on.
I'm going to put a little more paint on here. That looks good, Dave. Okay, so Dave has his done here.
Can I do the bottom?
You're not going to see it. Remember, that's going to sit in the plaster.
Oh, yeah.
So Ella's going to finish up hers, and I'm going to put these paint brushes in a bowl of water just so they don't dry out. So Dave's going to go ahead and set his green pine cone off to the side. So if you're painting your pine cones, what you want the green ones, you're going to need to let them dry completely before we add the Mod Podge, which is essentially a glue. And then Ella, you'll have that. So the next step will be to put our Mod Podge. We kind of use that whole plate. I'm going to grab another plate so that we have a space to put our Mod Podge. You'll also, I forgot, this is one of the other supplies that was in the to-go bag. You have a rolled up piece of wax paper, and so we'll use this with the plaster, but I'm going to go ahead and just use this for the Mod Podge as well. Okay, so you're going to either, if you're going to glitter your green pine cone, you're going to need to let those dry. And if there's some that you want to not paint and just put some Mod Podge on and glitter, then we're going to take our next pine cone, and I'm just going to put a little bit of Mod Podge out here on this wax paper.
Do we use our paintbrushes again?
Yep, we're going to rinse them out.
Where's my paintbrush? It's in this cup.
Yep, I'm going to get them rinsed out here. So we're going to reuse our same paintbrushes.
And sometimes they will smell kind of nice.
It's the Mod Podge. It has a funny scent.
I love the smell of Mod Podge.
Okay, so we have our clean brushes here, and these guys are going to paint the Mod Podge on the same way that they did the paint. So we put this on nice and thick. This is going to be the glue that binds the glitter. So if you don't like glitter in your house, this may not be the project for you. So we do have glitter everywhere. So this is...
I even have it on my face.
Sometimes. So you want to put this layer on really thick. This layer of Mod Podge is gonna dry clear. And so if you got the to-go bag, this is what is in the squeezable container, and you can just open it up and dump it out. Or I thought you could also just take that little red top off and then just kind of squeeze Mod Podge around on the pine cone and use whatever brush you might have at home and kind of maneuver it around to get the entire pine cone covered. So these guys are going to keep working on getting this glue on here, and then the next step will be adding the glitter. So I have a couple of containers of glitter here, and some of you that got the to-go bags have the really nice little safety feature on top that has the small holes, and you can sprinkle it like a salt shaker, and a couple of you did not. And so these do not have that little protective thing on top to help sprinkle the glitter. And one of these is not opening, so let's see if I can.
Oh, I
move
know
this
that
open.
one.
You're gonna use this one, right, Dave?
Oh, which one?
This one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There we go.
I'm going to do this one with no paint, too.
Okay. You can do that after we're done with the video here. We're just doing the one for now.
Okay.
So, do you guys need more Mod Podge? Are you good? I think you got enough there, Ella, to get onto
good.
the back side. Dave's looks real good here. I'm just going to take this and hold it up. Can I take that top? Let go. All right, so he's got a very generous layer of Mod Podge on here. Looks like a white Christmas tree. Like I said, this is going to go ahead and dry.
Invisible.
Invisible.
And I said, will it stay white? Because I kind of wanted it to stay white.
Well, Ella's going to use a white glitter, so yours will be white.
Yay. But I'm going to do that on my this Christmas tree.
Okay, what are you doing on this one? This one?
Yes.
Okay, so they're both going to use this glitter here, and so we're going to go ahead and take the top off. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and sprinkle this, but I like just a little bit less mess. So I'm going to have David hold his hand out, and maybe let's have your left hand since you are right-handed.
Can I use my spoon?
No,
Actually,
we're using...
I'm both-handed.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of times you are. So I'm just going to pour a generous amount of sprinkles in his hand, and then he's going to take the opposite hand and sprinkle it over top of the pine cone. Can I have you move just right here so you can see what we're doing? Okay, and Ella's going to do the same.
Ella doesn't like doing this way. No, I don't.
I think Ella's philosophy is the more glitter, the better. Although it does look really pretty when these are all finished. And so, like I said, you may decide that once you get this glitter on, and you can kind of, oopsies, move it around so that we can get the glitter all the way in there too, on all sides.
Mom, any more? I have no idea how I'm going to move this up, then try to sprinkle. Okay, I don't think that's working.
All right, so you have a whole bunch here, and then you can kind of pick that up.
Mom, I don't know how to get it back to side. Oh, you're going to have to.
I'll hold it. And these glitter pieces are a little bit bigger, and so you're going to get a different look depending on the grain of your glitter. So some of the other ones that we did before have a really fine grain. They were just really small pieces.
Just a little more right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need more Mod Podge right there.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably already dried, which is why it's not sticking. We can come back and do that later, though.
Okay.
Okay, so I am going to have these guys go wash their hands.
Boom.
Go wash your hands with soap and water. So we got all of our glitter on. We got them painted. If you are doing the second step of making your green pine cones sparkly as well, you're going to have those dry. You're going to add the Mod Podge, and then you're going to add the glitter on top of those. So our next step is going to be making these little snow piles for our pine cones to sit in. And to do that, we're going to mix up our plaster. And so it does take a little while for the for them to set up. Scoot some of this glitter out of the way here. And I'm going to show you how to mix that up. So what you're going to do is grab your container that you can throw away. So we have this. And we're going to have a layer of wax paper laid out. So I'm going to make a pretty generous. Can you take all of these and just move them over to that side of the table so I can lay the wax paper out right here?
Do I take this tape off?
Not yet. We'll get back to that. I just want you to scoot them all right over there to that corner. Get off your chair and we'll do that. So we have space to lay this out. So I got a wax paper about something like this. What is this? Maybe a couple of feet?
1 foot.
A little more. And we're going to lay that out. And I'm just going to do 2 sheets so that
Even this one?
Yep, just move them all over there.
Okay.
That guy too.
Let me put these ones on that.
We're just making space here, Dave, is all.
Ah!
All right, so this is where we're gonna put our snow piles down, and so I'm gonna make sure I have a nice flat surface underneath of my wax paper, because when you pour this out, it is still liquid, and it's gonna take, I don't know, probably a good half a day for it to set all the way up, if not longer. We can read the instructions on the container here. So we have our plaster of Paris, which is a dry plaster. You could also get the pre-mixed stuff. They sell them at like your hardware stores or Menards.
We have reindeer food right on our floor.
We do. We should probably save some of that, huh? So I'm just going to take the lid off here. And then that cup that you have is for measuring. Again, all this stuff just gets thrown away when you're done with it. You could probably maybe reuse your measuring cup.
The water.
No, we don't need that yet. So what you need is your container to throw away, and then I'm going to measure out a full cup of this plaster. Now, if you got the to-go bag, you have a Ziploc bag with some instructions right on the bag. I wrote them on each of the Ziplocs. Where we mix plaster is 2 to 1. So you want 2 parts plaster to 1 part cold water. So I'm going to take this full cup. I'm going to dump it into my container. That's going to get thrown away. I'm going to cover up the container so we don't drop this anywhere. And then we also have some water here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this about half. So I did 1 cup, so I'm going to do about half the amount of water, something like that, and then I pour it. Can I have my mixing utensil? I have a plastic spoon, and I'm going to pour my water in here, and then Ella's going to go ahead and mix, and if we need a little more water, we'll know. So she's going to mix this up gently, and it's going to start to look, what does it look like?
Kind of like the stuff that you make cookies. And it's when you add eggs and
When you
sugar,
have
water.
flour and
Yeah.
you
And
add
then you-
liquid to it?
Yeah. Milk. I think it's a little too liquidy.
It is a little liquidy. Let's keep mixing here. So the first time that we did this, we did let it set up a little bit, but we're just kind of winging it here. If it looks a little bit liquidy, you can just let it set in this container a little bit longer, because as it dries, the mixture will start to set up. And like I said, when you pour this out, you're probably going to need to let it set for a little bit longer. Can you scoot over? I'm going to add a little bit more plaster to this, because I think I did get a little bit too much water. Here's my container. And so when you're done using this, like I said, you're going to throw it away and you're going to wash your hands.
Yes, Ma.
All right, I'm going to show you the consistency that I have here, which I think is pretty good. Okay, so it's going to look something like this.
It's gonna be like your wall once it's done.
Yeah, this is essentially the stuff you can use on some walls. So it's getting pretty thick, and that's kind of what you want it to do when you put it out on the paper. So I'm going to make little piles here, and this is what's going to be your snow, and we're going to stick our pine cones in it.
Do you mind if I put one of my pine cones on?
In a minute. I'm gonna get these all set out here. I'm gonna make this one a little bit bigger. And so what I really liked about this is as you put it out, it's the more texture you have, it's kind of like snowbanks,
Yeah.
right? Like if it would actually be in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So the amount that you got in your to-go bag is probably enough for maybe 3 or 4 snow piles, depending on
How big you make them.
how big you, thank you, Ella. Exactly. So we got a little guy over here. We might have to steal a little bit from the other guy. Dave, do you have the ones that you just did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I put them in?
I'm going to take a little bit from this guy and add it to this guy. One
Should I
second.
put it
I just
in?
want to show, I'm going to move the camera so that they can see what they look like here. I'm just looking at the size of the pine cones. Make sure you have a pile of plaster that is big enough to accommodate your pine cone. Okay, that is my throw away container. I'm gonna grab this and just a minute, Dave. All right, so this is what we have here, these piles of plaster. This is gonna need to just sit here and dry. What we're gonna do is add our pine cones to each of these. So if you guys could take your, now your green ones, if you have your green ones, I would do your Mod Podge first before you add it to your pile of plaster here. So the ones that we did just the Mod Podge and the glitter, you guys go ahead and set those in here. You just gently set them down. Okay. Yeah, you can push them down a little bit. So what we did when we poured our plaster first and then we had our green and we hadn't done any of the painting yet, I taped them off with painter's tape. So if you went ahead and did this step and added everything in here, you can do that so that when you do your painting and Mod Podge and glitter, your white snow isn't totally full.
Did we spray this?
No, I think this will be just fine. And then you guys go ahead and add your green pine cones too if you want, and we can tape them off. So we are going to do that step of adding the paint, but we'll just put these in here.
It looks like
Right
it's
there is
actually
perfect.
golden.
Cool. All right, so we have those in there. We're going to go ahead and let these dry. And so we're going to go back to some of them that we already did last week just to show you. So this is, for example, this is one of them. I love this glitter. It's like big fat glitter. I'll show you. Ella's got this here
I
too.
have tiny ones.
So this is the glitter that we used for that one. We're going to add some Christmas bulbs onto these with our beads.
Here's my favorite. This is my favorite.
The red one? Okay. So can you go throw this away?
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Or if you wanted to scrape that container out and then reuse it for plaster again, you could do that too. Now, can you take that one off of here? I'm going to scoop this over so that we can take that one off. So these are the ones that are drying here. I'm going to scoop this over. You have one that you're going to decorate, that red one, Dave? Okay, so we have our glue. Oh, I don't remember if I mentioned you also need glue if you're going to add these bulbs onto your tree. There's David's.
My
There's
favorite.
Ella's.
My favorite.
Okay, so we have our final step here, and we're going to add our bulbs on. Dave, want to use the other container of beads here? Or do you want to use what Ella's got?
I'm going to use both.
Okay,
I don't know what that was.
there you go.
It's an earth ball.
You could probably use some of your Mod Podge if you added a little bit more Mod Podge on and have that be your glue to add any bulbs on that you wanted. So, like I said, you can use old beads. You could use buttons.
Okay,
I'm sure
where's
there's
the glue?
a million different things that you could use. So, anyway, that is our kids' art for today. I'm going to let these guys go ahead and finish decorating these. We're going to let our other pine cones set up, and by the time we're done with this, we're going to have an entire forest. I think we have probably
Forest.
15 trees going on here. So
And then we're going to put them over by the native, over by
by the nativity. Oh, that's a great idea. I love it. So anyway, next week for kids art, we're going to do a draw along with the Nutcracker. So we're going to be making, I don't know, they're probably about 2 feet tall. And so we'll do a draw along with that. You're going to either color or paint them. And we got some glitter glue and all kinds of stuff. So
more glue?
that will be our kids' art for next week. You're going to borrow Ella's. You guys put that in the center, then you can share it. So we'll see you next week. If you wanted to go bag, just remember to send me a text or a message. The kids' art event is under the J. Eberly Co. page, and I do share that to my Jamie Eberly page as well. But if you go into the kids' art event and click that you are going, you will see posts in there. For example, supplies needed and any extra videos that we might put in during the week to kind of give you a clue as to the process. And
Do you
yeah.
want some of this?
And again, if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to message me,
There's
text
some
me,
on here.
or comment
This is
on a
New
post.
Star.
All right, thanks guys. We'll see you next week. Wanna say bye?
Bye. Bye. Bye.